Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum once again, dear listeners. We are today in Connect with the Quran. We're going to look at Surah Qasas, which is Surah number 28. And last week we did Surah Namal. And here I would like you to listen to a recording before I move on. So Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. طاسيم. تلك آيات الكتاب المبين. نتلو عليك من نبأ موسى وفرعون بالحق لقوم يؤمنون. إن فرعون علا في الأرض وجعل أهلها شيعا يستضعف طائفة منهم يذبح أبناءهم ويستحيي نساءهم إنه كان من المفسدين. ونريد أن نمن على الذين استضعفوا في الأرض ونجعلهم أئمة ونجعلهم الوارثين. ونمكن لهم في الأرض ونري فرعون وهامان وجنودهما منهم ما كانوا يحذرون. وأوحينا إلى أم موسى أن أرضعيه فإذا خفت عليه فألقيه في اليم ولا تخافي ولا تحزني إنا رادوه إليك وجاعلوه من المرسلين.
Sadaqallahu al-Azim. So that we just heard that passage of the beginning ayahs of Surah Qasas. Just a few things to, just to draw a link from where we started, where we're going. I mentioned that the three surahs that start with Tasin Mim is Surah Shu'ara, and this surah here, Surah Qasas, with Tasin Mim. Right in the middle, we have Surah 27, which is Surah Namal, which has just Tasin. Allah knows best for the reason, but these three go together. This whole series from Surah Furqan is highlighting the value of the Quran, which we need to reiterate again and again. The value of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is a right prophet of Allah. This is with reference to the Quraysh, drumming it into them that he is a prophet. Just because he isn't of your top echelon and your ego is hurt, that's a fact. And that's how it is. So the other reference, just I'd like to look at, in Shu'ara, the story of Musa alayhi salam is started in ayah 10. In Surah Namal, the story of Musa alayhi salam started in ayah 7. And here it starts right. It just says to us that Tasin Mim, Tilka Ayatul Kitab al-Mubin, and then it goes, Natlu alayhika, we are going to tell you the story, Min Nabai Musa wa Fir'auna, of Fir'aun bil haqqi liqawlin yuminun, and in truth for people who believe. So again, the idea of the story that Allah in first place told Rasulullah through the Quran, we are getting it to us, it's all for solace sake. And he was the worst tyrant, Fir'aun, so if Allah can get rid of him in 1 second with the water coming and he's drowned, so we need to take home our solace for whatever is going on in Palestine. And the sense of hopelessness that we run into, that no, Allah's in charge. He's not ghafil, like we finished off in the last surah. And so a few interesting things I'd just like to highlight, because I'm just able to give you a glimpse of an overview of it. But in Fir'aun, in ayah 4, he says he broke its people into sections, depressing them. So that again relates to how, divide and rule, how people do it, how colonialists did it. So it just gives you that background. And then he says that we wish to be gracious to those who were oppressed, depressed in the land, to make them the inheritors, and then eventually, and to establish a firm place with them and show Firaun, Haman, and their hosts the very things they're trying to take precautions again, that's going to, be the end for them. And just without going into detail of the tafsir, I wish you would want to and look at it, but just draw the parallel. What's going on in why are they bombarding, thinking everybody is Hamas, thinking they're all, they want to annihilate the Muslims there, the Zionists, thinking that's going to safeguard them. Thinking that's going to save God. And Allah says that the very thing against which they were taking precautions, from there Allah got rid of them. And then in 7, it's beautiful. I just stopped there to have you listen to it, that we inspired Musa alayhi salam to first feed the baby, but when you fear for him, cast him in the river. And fear, and I love it, ولا تحزن ولا تخفي ولا تخافي ولا تحزني. Don't have fear nor grief. We will إنك رأدوه, we will إليك, we will return him to you, وجائلوه, and we will make him min al-mursaleen. So what I love about that is that he's telling the mother, he's inspiring the mother what to do. First, breastfeed him. If you're worried for him and he's crying and the guards are there just to take the baby to kill them all, you put him in the river. And he just doesn't say that now she's going to, he lets her know, because I'm going to bring him back to you. Don't you worry, I'll bring him back to you, and I intend to make him a messenger. But anyway, so then they picked him up, and then they go back to, but there was in Ayah 10, there was a void in the heart of the mother of Musa, in kadat la tubdi bihi, and she was nearly about to give up let it be known. She was almost about to disclose it, had we not walala an rabatna ala qalbiha. If we had, and the same rabatna came in Surah Kaf when we were talking about the sleepers of the cave and how Allah strengthened their heart when they went to the cave and to save their iman. And with her, latakunu, so that she may remain min al-mu'minin, a firm believer. And then, but she still, look how Allah guides you, and He also tells you to take the asbab, do what you can. So she told the sister, follow him from a distance. This is the only mention of the sister of Musa alayhi salam, and as an elder sister, to follow him. And we ordained that he refused to breastfeed from any of the other nursemaids, wet nurses. And so then she comes casually and she said, shall I suggest somebody to you? You've tried so many wet nurses, you may as well try one more from a family who will be sincerely attached to him and take care of him. So just enjoy the beauty of how Allah chooses to tell us enough and what He feels is comfortable. But, and this is how it restored him to his mother. And so that her, taqarra aynaha, so that her eyes may be comforted. And so that she wasn't in huzn, and she wasn't in taqaf, she wasn't in huzn, and she wasn't in fear. And so she may know that the promise of Allah is true. So that's beautiful. Then he goes on about how he grew up in the palace, but he would come down into the town sometimes at like the qailula time, the siesta time, and then he saw these two people, and so there's that story which we have done previously also. And then he punched one and he died, and so then he said, look at the beautiful thing. Always notice how the prophets, in good time, they go and make dua. Here, as soon as it happened, he said, oh my Rabb, I have indeed, Rabbi, inni zalamtu nafsi, faghfirli. And you forgive me, and Allah forgave him. And he said, Ya Allah, you have bestowed grace on me, never will I help somebody who's doing sin. Then the next day, the same thing happened. The same quarrelsome fellow of his community was fighting with the Copts, and this happened. And so he is fearful. Then somebody tells him, comes from Waja min Aqsal, Waja Rajulun min Aqsal Madinate. And Yasa Qala Ya Musa, I'm telling you to take counsel, because the people of the chief of the Firaun, they heard that you killed somebody and they want to now plan to kill you. So please, you leave the town, which is what Musa alayhi salam did. And it's Fakhraj minha khaifan yataraqqab, looking back, and he's fearful, and he asks his Rabb, he says, Qala Rabbi najjini min al-qawm al-zalimin, and Ya Allah, you save me from the zalim qawm. We need to be praying this again and again, but we'll come back to this surah, and but we're taking a short break, and then inshallah after that we will continue with it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
إن قارون كان من قوم موسى فبغى عليهم وآتيناه من الكنوز ما إن مفاتحه لتنوء بالعصبة أولي القوة إذ قال له قومه لا تفرح إن الله لا يحب الفرحين وابتغ فيما آتاك الله الدار الآخرة ولا تنس نصيبك من الدنيا وأحسن كما أحسن الله إليك ولا تبغ الفساد في الأرض إن الله لا يحب المفسدين قال إنما أوتيته على علم عندي أولم يعلم أن الله قد أهلك من قبله من القرون من هو أشد منه قوة وأكثر جمعا ولا يسأل عن ذنوبهم المجرمون فخرج على قومه في زينته قال الذين يريدون الحياة الدنيا يا ليت لنا مثل ما أوتي قارون إنه لذو حظ عظيم وقال الذين أوتوا العلم ويلكم ثواب الله خير لمن آمن وعمل صالحا ولا يلقاها إلا الصابرون فخسفنا به وبداره الأرض فما كان له من فئة ينصرونه من دون الله وما كان من المنتصرين وأصبح الذين تمنوا مكانه بالأمس يقولون ويكأن الله يبسط الرزق لمن يشاء من عباده ويقدر لولا أمن الله علينا لخسف بنا ويكأنه لا يفلح الكافرون.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So that was another passage at the tail end of the surah, which I'll get into just now, of Qarun, who was also Coptic. So we had in the beginning Musa alayhi salam going to town, seeing this guy who was not a Coptic, from the Bani Israel, from his clan. And in the beginning we had it, and at the end we cover it with that. So I would want to get to that, but in the beginning I just wanted to finish off the story of Musa alayhi salam coming to Madian, and then he's seeing these two girls in ayah, what's the matter with you, in ayah 23. He came to this watering place, and they said, well, we have to wait till these guys are done with watering their animals, feeding their animals, giving them to drink, and because our father's an old man. So he, mashallah, goes in, does it for them, comes back, and then he first he does it, gives them, and so they obviously got home sooner than usual. And then he says, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir. I'm really desperately in need of any good. I'm a faqir to any good that you send to me. And he sits, but he does it after. So the take home for us from there is, because then one of the damsels, one of the girls come back, and what's highlighted that she walked with great hair. So hair at that sort of junction, Allah thought it necessary for us to let us know that even if she's coming to talk to them, this is how she does it. Istihya with haya. And so she says, my dad wants to meet you, and so on and so forth. So there's that beautiful passage, and if you listen to some good tafsirs of it, it's a real beautiful story. So the take home when he makes that dua is that he helped first without any expectations, nothing, and then so even when we make dua, we do, but we don't just sit on our backs and do it. Wherever is possible for you, for us to say, I'm not in a position to help anybody. I don't work. I don't do this. I don't da. You can. And if nothing else, smile is a sadaqah. But just to uplift others is so easy to do. Sometimes we don't do it. Sometimes we've got an arrogance issue or whatever. But it is so easy to be there for somebody else and then ask Allah, and Allah will sort you out as well and give you. So then she comes back. She's calm. So he gets food. Then the father hears the story. And he says, well, then, and because the daughter tells him, Dad, why don't you hire him? He's a good guy, and he's here obviously as a stranger now. So the father gets it. Then he tells him, I intend to lend one of my daughters to you. We're not told which one, so we can't hypothesize that it was that one or that one. It probably, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, we don't know. But it's nonetheless beautiful, and then he tells him these are the conditions. So that goes on for a bit. And then the same story that we've had repeated, that he comes to the mountain and he hears Allah, and just the dialogue is with Allah. It's a goosebump moment that he's there talking to Allah. He didn't expect to be talking to Allah, and there he is, and Allah tells him to come back and do all this. And then there's a whole passage about with the arrogance of Pharaoh, and in ayah 40, just in one line, we seized him as his host and we flung them into the sea, and lo behold, that's the end of those who do wrong. So after all this endless crime, harm, oppressing that the Pharaoh did, in 1 second it was all over. And then elsewhere, because he did say, now I believe in the God of Musa, and so on. So Allah said, now you believe? And so he said, well, just because you did finally come to that, even when you were, your breath was out of your throat coming out, so I'm going to save your body. That comes elsewhere. So anyway, now towards the end, it goes on. It flips into talking to the Quraysh also, in giving them that this is what happens to people. And now I just want to come to the end of where we heard this passage on Qarun of 76. But just before that, there's a passage which says in 71 and 72, which says, if Allah was to make night sarmadan ila yawmil qiyamah, till the day of Qiyamah, if Allah was meant to make you a night, layl sarmadan means perpetually, then how would you feel? Who would be able to bail you out, and who can give you enlightenment? Will you not hearken? Then it says, and what if Allah gave you a day, nahara sarmadan ila yawmil qiyamah, until the yawm al-qiyamah? What would you do then? How would you be able to do? So can you would you be able to rest, or what will you do? And we have the examples. Allah's also given us his dunya, the North Pole, the South Pole, how there are 6 months at a time and there's always light. And so somebody was saying that in Norway they went to this town where it was like this, and they said, we actually have to seal out our windows to give an impression of, because it is night. I mean, you can't be up 24 hours, and that's how we create our night feeling, because otherwise it's going to be sarmad. So for me, what's interesting, if you go look into, there's beautiful apps. I particularly like Corpus Quran, and which if you look and click on the word, it tells you either how frequently it comes in the Quran or how in a limited way. And sarmadan is one of those words which this is the only place where it comes on. This is in Surah Qasas. Towards the end at 76, I just want to go about this Qarun. He was from the people of Musa, but he acted insolently And such were the treasures we bestowed on him, their very keys was a burden to carry. And once we were doing a tafsir, it was beautiful because we said some places in South Africa we can relate to the concept of locking. So anyway, because of this treasure, a strong body of men had to be carrying him. And so people told him, don't be arrogant, don't exalt, Allah does not love. Inna Allaha la yuhibbul farihin, the one who is arrogant and exalting. And but seek what Allah has given you and in the home of the hereafter, but don't forget what's here too. So some of the good guys are advising him, but he said, this is given to me because of a certain knowledge. So here is pride of ilm. So while we were talking about gul ilm with the guy, the one in the with Allah endowed with knowledge, and here he is taking ownership because I have been given so much ilm. That's why I've got what I have, and that's what I have. So he is being so arrogant. So again, he went with pomp and glory, showing off all his whatever it was. And though the people whose aim was always sort of hung up on the dunya with the life of they said, I wish we had what Qarun had. He's really got a good fortune. But those granted with knowledge said the reward of the hereafter is much better. And none will achieve it except those who are steadfast. And then in the next minute, in 81, Qarun is, we cause the earth to swallow him up and his house. And they say in other sort of hadith or other literature that he was in the key in the door and he was about to enter his palace, whatever he had done. And at that moment, Allah chose to take him, finish him off. And there was nobody who could help against Allah, and nor could he defend himself. So those who had envied him 2 days ago were saying, oh, Ya Allah. Now they said that indeed Allah, what does he do? يقول يبسط رزق لمن يشاء من عباده. Allah expands the risk of whoever he wishes to, or restricts it. ويقدر ibadihi over yaqdiru lala anna man amana, whoever he wishes to. So I haven't read the full ayah properly. He could have swallowed us up too. So Allah saved us, and may we be on the right track. So that's a passage I had you listen to because it's quite self-explanatory. Especially about, the ilm, the arrogance that we think I'm here because I've got this and I've got this degree or that degree. All that arrogance of what we presume we have. Somebody was proud of whatever the profession they had, and it was like, well, who gave you the aql to be whatever you are? So those are the kind of things, and at the end it goes back that the house in the hereafter will give to the righteous. So again, solace from the beginning to Rasulullah, to us, and on and on, that that is, but if anybody does good, he does it for himself, but if he does bad, it's for himself. So at the end it also winds up, but everything will perish but the face of Allah. كل شيء هلك إلا وجهه له الحكم وإليه ترجعون, and everything returns to Allah. So that's, again, it's not a very long surah, 88 ayahs. In a nutshell, of Surah Qasas, giving more detail of certain bits of Musa alayhi salam, which are beautiful to read, and make the comparison with other surahs. But my whole point of, inshallah, of wanting to connect with the Quran myself in first place, but helping others, and it's just a baseline of going. There's so much beautiful mufassirs, tafsirs out there to learn, but as a baseline to just be encouraged to do it, please go and connect with the Quran and read these beautiful surahs, and whatever you can remember to take you up to the next step, please do that. So with Subhana Rabbika Rabbil Izzati Amma Yasifun wa Salamun Alal Mursaleen walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa akhiru da'wahum and alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.